the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
I think we looked around the league. Terrible GM situation. Really wouldn't commit to a long-term rebuild. It's where the Red Wings, and you see this in sports where like certain franchises and their history kind of blinds them to rebuilds and painful rebuilds. And then there's like for instance, Bryan. I didn't want to say the Dallas Cowboys, but there are teams, big teams and big logos. Like the Red Wings logo is just iconic, and they're an iconic franchise. So I think it's just a little bit harder when teams like them and the Blackhawks and a few others accepting that they need to do a full-on teardown. But it seems like the Detroit Red Wings are moving in the right direction. But what say you on their offseason, Jeff Middleton?
I mean, I thought they had a great offseason. I think this season is very important, not just for the roster, for their young guys. They're going to need Lucas Raymond to get it back into gear. Last year he wasn't like the world beater that everybody thought he could be after his excellent rookie season. They're going to have to see some younger guys step up. Marco Kasper could make the roster out of camp if he plays well enough. Simon Edvinsson, that'll be interesting to see what he can do. And Elmer Soderblom, those are two big old Swedish guys that can really play hockey. And they're really skilled too. Elmer Soderblom, he made a pretty big impact on the team last season when he got into games. Not just physically, but his skill for a guy his size is out of this world. And Edvinsson, he's high draft pick. He's a guy that, he's going to be an offensive driver on that blue line, but they need to just see more steps taken from him to solidify himself in an NHL lineup. But I mean, the big name is Alex DeBrincat. He was floated around Nashville, floated around
this
some
very
other
program.
teams. That's right, this very program. Like he was the talk of the town. Not that we thought anything was like really going to happen, but it was an interesting thought, kind of exercise to see whether or not he'd come to Nashville, or if he was if the rumors were true that he really just wanted to play in his hometown. But yeah, so he's going to be, a leader on that team. He's still a young guy, but he's going to have to take another step. And I think he can do that. I mean, Dylan Larkin, he's only getting better. He's been pretty consistent, for a while now. David Perron's still there. Andrew Kopp, like they have a solid lineup. Michael Rasmussen has looked better. Klim Kostin they acquired. JT Compher they paid a lot of money for. But yeah, I think they're Steve Yzerman is building or continues to build a solid roster. But there have been questions that whether or not is Steve Yzerman really, like, is the Yzer plan going as well as people really think it is, or is it just the fact that it's Steve Yzerman and he made these great moves, and like is it a facade basically? Like is the talk around Steve Yzerman because he's Steve Yzerman and not because he's made all these insane moves? It was just like one or two of them that really kind of put in people's mind that he's like this fantastic GM, which I think he is a really good GM. I don't think it's like, I don't think that's really it, but I think it's fair to ask, you've had, 3 seasons of Steve Yzerman or however many, and we've seen improvement, but last season they still had a losing record. They were expected to contend for a wild card spot, and they didn't do that. They finished 24th in the NHL. But yeah, I think this season is a really big one. I think they need guys to step up. I think they need 40-goal Alex DeBrincat back. I think they need Lucas Raymond to be Lucas Raymond again, 50, 60-point guy with strong, with better defensive numbers, because his defense, if I remember correctly, was not very good. It hasn't been very good. and I think Red Wings fans would love to see what those young guys can do. I think that would be that would be helpful for them to kind of see what the top of their prospect pool looks like, but it would also be, you're bringing in these young guys that are, energetic, fast. They have an offensive mindset. They're trying to score. They're going to be a fun team to watch, I think. But a lot of the talk around Detroit this season and this offseason has been, one, improving the roster, and two, getting statistical improvements and how to get that.
I like it. The Red Wings are going to be interesting going into next year. Well, in the Red Wings thing, unless you have something else to add, Brian. Do you have something else?
I was gonna say, like, I see what you're saying, and especially, like, on this very program we've talked about, giving GMs too long of a leash. It's year 3 and it's Detroit. They weren't, in the best of places when he took over. Like, you've got guys where a GM, an NFL, you get a new GM, they go in there and they can make these decisions in the draft. And these are guys that come in and impact your team immediately. A GM comes in and, Barry Trotz, we're going to have no idea if the draft strategy was how it actually worked out for 2, 3, maybe 4 years. And so, like, he hasn't, you look at it and just, like, I haven't seen a ton of just, like, bad head scratching moves for Detroit. I mean, I don't blame them for the Nedeljkovic signing. Like, I thought he was going to be, I thought that was a great move when it happened. And I'm still not entirely convinced that he's washed now. But, you got guys like Mo Sider and all them. Like, there's things there. And like, honestly, sometimes in the NHL, if they didn't make a dumb decision, that's a victory. So, I think that what they've been doing, and, like, things are going a little bit slower, and the hype, because it is Steve Yzerman, which I think 100% is because he's Steve Yzerman, the hype got people, kind of drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit early, which is fine. But, I don't think I would hold this against him. I mean, I'd be completely fine with letting it run for, like, 3 more years, unless something just terrible happens or something just obviously goes bad. I think that you don't sign a guy like that and give him the keys to this historic franchise and give him 4 years or 3 years. So, also, and I forgot what I was going to say otherwise. So go ahead, Chase. Sorry.
Well, the last thing here, I think this could be fun. Thumbs up, thumbs in the middle, or thumbs down, Brian, on the Red Wings?
Oh, I think, like Jeff said, thumbs up. I mean, okay. The getting DeBrincat was huge. That wasn't. I thought it was going to involve a whole lot more compensation in order to get DeBrincat anywhere, and it was second round pick, and then 2 or 3 players. I think that was it. Let's see here. It was.
That's a good question. Actually, I'm not sure. Usually, I'm good with this.
Yeah, it was Kubalik, Sabrango, a first round, and a 4th round.
Forgot they traded Kubalik. That sucks. See, I loved him last year. He was good. Although I guess, Jonathan Bergeron's going to be in there. Fabry's coming back healthy.
Yeah,
they got Daniel Sprong, who I love. But I think they'll be okay. But I like Dominic Kubalik. I like his fit there.
So I mean, like, I like that. I mean, just from that, again, they got that signing. There was there's a lot of pressure now because we all saw what happened with Tkachuk. Which, again, it's unrealistic to think that, like, that's a move that everybody can make and have those results. But, DeBrincat's a young guy, one of the, like Jeff has with, his guy over there, Kubalik. Like, sometimes I can tolerate players from Chicago, and DeBrincat was one of them. And he's one of those guys I've always liked. But again, we'll revisit the subject of free agents that I personally missed out on a few teams down as we get down here. So.
There you go.
Good offseason. I like theirs.
For sure. The Ottawa Senators, Brian, a team that ownership questions for years, what was going to go on there, that's kind of hovering over them. They just kind of felt very irrelevant.